Ex-date, record date, payment date, ano-ano ba mga to, and kailan ka mag-hold para maka-avail ka ng dividend. Hi everyone, I am Geyzson Kristoffer, and today I will teach you what a dividend is, plus examples para malaman nyo kung ano effect nito sa market. Pero first of all, ano nga ba ang dividend? For instance, a company is doing great, has an excess in earnings, they have the option to give that excess in earnings to their shareholders. The distribution of these profits to its shareholders is what we call a dividend. A dividend can be paid in cash, stock, or property depending upon the company. But right now, focus muna tayo sa cash dividends. So paano natin malalaman kung may binibigay ba na dividend yung stock natin? First of all, punta tayo dito sa edge.psc.com.ph and then punta ka sa search bar and search the name of the company that you want to check. Let's say SCC or Semirara Mining and Power Corporation. Click the name of the company and then punta ka sa Company Disclosures. Under Company Disclosures, kung makikita mo, meron dyang template name. You put their dividend. And once you press enter, eto yung bubungad sa'yo. Lahat ng mga declared nilang dividends for the past 2 years. So we click the first one. This is the latest. So makikita nyo dito yung amount of cash dividend per share. So in this case, it's 150 per share. Before we proceed, here are the dates that you need to keep in mind. Declaration date, ex-date, record date, and the payment date. Declaration date is when the company announces their dividend. Take note that before they can announce the dividend, it needs to be approved by the board of directors. This is an essential information that you need to understand because minsan, hintay ka ng dividend, next week pa pala yung board of directors meeting. So minsan, napapabenta ka ng stock na hawak mo and then they announce the dividend. Before we proceed to the ex-date, unahin na natin si payment date and si record date. The payment date is the date when the company is paying the dividends. Of course, the more eligible shares you have, the more you will receive. Next is the record date. Siguro isa to sa pinaka-confusing na date para sa mga shareholders. So listen carefully. Record date is the date when you should be on the books of the company for you to be eligible for the dividend. And here's the important thing. The record date determines the ex-date. To elaborate further on the record date, let's say meron kang lending business. Syempre, you need someone to collect the payments. So, yung collector mo will go from house to house to collect the payments of your clients. One time, tumawag sa'yo yung client mo. Boss, natanggap mo na ba payment ko? Bayad na ako lahat ha. Aalis kasi ako ng bansa eh. Sabi mo naman, hindi pa nakabalik collector ko eh. Pero sige, okay na kasi sabi mo naman eh. Big mistake. Bumalik na yung collector mo and hinanap mo yung pangalan ng tumawag kung nakabayad nga. Pero wala pala. Tinawagan mo siya pero hindi mo na makontak. Nakaalis na pala ng bansa. Lesson learned, kailangan hintayin mo muna and i-check kung nakabayad nga. Ganyan mga companies natin. They need to check if you are an eligible shareholder before they pay you the dividend. Notice that in our example, there is a difference between the time they paid and the time you received the payment. Ganyan din sa mga companies natin. Before your name would be on their books, everything needs to be settled first. This leads us to the ex-date. The ex-date is the cutoff date for the public to hold their shares for them to be eligible for the dividend. The ex-date is usually 3 business days before the record date. This is because in the Philippines, the clearing and settlement process takes 3 business days. So without the record date, walang ex-date. So kailan ka mag-hold para maka-avail ng dividend? Magiging eligible ka para sa dividend if you hold up to the morning of the ex-date. Take note that you can sell your shares on the ex-date itself and still receive the dividend, even if you sell your shares when the market opens. Hindi ka naman magiging eligible sa dividend if, number 1, kakabili mo pa lang si ex-date, and number 2, kakabenta mo din before the ex-date. In those cases, hindi ka talaga makakakuha ng dividend. Now, saan natin makikita itong declaration date, ex-date, record date, and payment date? Going back sa edge.pse.com.ph kanina, we click the declaration of cash dividends, and then we will see this document. Kitang-kita dito sa top, this one, April 1, 2022, is the declaration date. Ex-date is April 11, 2022. Take note, nandito yan palagi sa upper left corner ng document. Scrolling down, you will see the approval of the Board of Directors is March 31, 2022. The record date is April 18, 2022, and the payment date is April 28, 2022, with 150 as the amount of cash dividend per share. So now that alam na natin kung ano yung dividend and the important dates, puntahan naman natin yung chart and we will see the effect of the dividend on the stock itself. So one of the more recent cash dividend declaration is from SCC, October 2021. First of all, let us go to edge.pse.com.ph. Let us search the company SCC. So click SCC there and click Semirara Mining and Power Corporation. Again, go to company disclosures and lagay natin sa template name is the dividend. And then click enter. Ito is the declaration of cash dividends last October. So here, as you can see, meron tayong October 12, 2021 as our declaration of cash dividends. That is the declaration date. Next is the ex-date itself, October 20, 2021. And going down here, we have a special cash dividend at 1.75 pesos per share with record date October 25, 2021 and payment date November 9, 2021. So going back to the chart, the announcement date or the declaration date is October 12, 2021. Lagyan ko dito ng arrow so that you can see. So this one, as you can see, merong gap up and may impulse move towards the upside. And then, lagay naman natin sa X-date. X-date is this candle, October 20, 2021. So ano nangyari dito kay Semirara on the announcement date and on the X-date itself? During the announcement date, most of the time, kung magkano yung dividend, that is the gap up of the stock. So 1.75, here, lagay natin dito. The closing price here is 25.45 plus tayo ng 1.75. So 25.45 plus 1.75 is 27.20. So, it gapped up by less than the amount itself, but then the impulse move follows. Ayan, nag-first day, breakout here, and then the next day may continuation pa. Now, ano naman nangyari sa X-date ni SCC? On the X-date itself, merong gap down. Usually, the gap down is the same amount na ibibigay nila through cash dividends. So here, as you can see, meron tayong gap down dito. And the gap down is 1.45 only. Again, that is only our estimate, no? Kung magkano yung dividend, that is most likely the gap up during the declaration date and the gap down on the X-date itself. That is, of course, estimates only, and the market will still decide on what will happen to the stock. Next example is GMA7 last March 2021. So looking at the chart of GMA7, kitang-kita naman siguro kung kailan yung declaration date and kailan yung X-date. But just to make sure, let us look at the PSE Edge. So going back here sa PSE Edge, let us put in here GMA7. We click the name of the company and then company disclosures and then we put in here dividend. And then we will click sa declaration of cash dividends last 2021. So dito naman, we have your declaration date at March 26, 2021 with X-date April 19, 2021. Dito naman sa baba, we have your 1.35 amount of cash dividend per share with the record date April 22, 2021 and payment date May 18, 2021. Now tingnan natin kung ano nangyari sa chart ni GMA7. Now on the declaration day itself, dito yung declaration. This is because it was declared after the market hours na. That's why the next trading day, dyan pa siya nag-gap up. So looking at the chart, parang ito na lang din yung declaration date since it was declared na sa closing ng market during this day. So kitang-kita naman yung gap up. Let us measure the gap up of the stock. So the gap up is 1.02 pesos. Lower than the 1.35 cash dividend per share pero may continuation naman. Now ano naman nangyari sa X-date ni GMA7? Looking at the chart, this is the X-date of GMA7. As you can see, the gap down here is super low with 1.45 pesos per share gap down. And then it closed above that level. So, even if it gap down near the 1.35 pesos cash dividend, bumawi lang din yung market. The market will still decide on what will happen to the stock. Notice that walang nangyayari during the payment date and the record date. This is because this one is a cash dividend play and not a stock dividend or a property dividend play. So what is the lesson here? Since the amount of cash dividend is usually the gap up during the announcement date and the gap down during the ex-date, parang tabla lang din since yung gap down na natalo mo during the ex-date is mabibigyan ka ng cash dividend in exchange of that. So that is how the cash dividend works. If you want to know about the stock dividend, click here.